Regina Harrell, your motivational strategist and author. I would like to start off with the scripture, and it's coming from Genesis 2:23 through 24. The man said, "Finally, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, name her woman, for she was made from men. Therefore a man leaves his father and mother and embraces his wife. They become one flesh." And today I have a special guest with me. He is my brother, my blood brother, and his name is Jim Goody. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Gooding, as my sister said. Hope y'all doing well. I look forward to speaking with you all today on the subject matter, and let's go.
And today, you guys, our topic is our idea of marriage versus reality. And, I know growing up, we watched TV shows and we even had family members and stuff around us. And we saw, pretty much, I guess, grasp our own information on what we think marriage should be.
Correct.
So would you like to expound on, a little bit about how marriage is today versus what we've been seeing, what we saw and what we've been taught?
What we saw growing up is more so the hard working man, the housewife, the man coming home to meals being cooked, children being taken care of. The man comes home, he relaxes, and the night just goes on. Kids go to bed, parents go to bed, and you wake up and continue with that cycle the next day. In this day and age, it's a little different. The man and the wife work. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, sometimes you run into a situation where people feel like the woman is supposed to still do everything and the man just does his part, when in essence now you have to split those duties because you both are working, you both have to take care of the kids, mm-hmm. and you both have to keep the house clean and keep things in decent and in order. And times have changed. You just have to learn to morph with the times, and it's just the coming of age of the way life is these days.
Right. So now, do you think that comes from, I guess, the way they are being brought up now these days?
Yeah, I think so. And part of the new wave comes from the natural progression of women wanting to be in the workforce, women are wanting to be out there getting it as well. And in some cases, women are getting it more so than us men. And there's nothing like having a strong woman behind you. And that's something some men should respect and be cool with following and tending to. Some of us still feel like the man should be the bravado and the macho and this, that, and the third, be the breadwinner and all that. But so there are women out here getting it, and the breadwinners too. It's just up to us to be able to understand that woman's path and what that woman wants in life, and sometimes that woman can guide us in the right direction, even when we feel like we're going in the right direction. Sometimes we may not be. Sometimes it takes a strong woman to help that strong man, or bring that man up if he feels down, to get us in the right path.
Correct. And I love the way that you had expressed that. So by you being a father as well as a husband, I know that you go to work and you're taking care of family, but you also have friends. How do you balance that out?
Originally, when I was still young, I was in the mindset of party, friends. Even when I was early on in my relationship, I told my wife, hey, then girlfriend, hey, I got these friends, we hang out, we party, this, that, and the third. And it would kind of make me put our relationship to the side sometimes, to a degree, which was unfair to her. When our son came along, a couple of years after we started dating, she informed me that, it's not only important to always want to spend time and have fun with your friends, but you need to make that time for family too. I was still living in a world where I thought it was okay for me to do what I felt like doing, and kind of go to my family or give my family the time when I felt like I should do it, as opposed to listening to my wife and giving her the equal opportunity and time she needed to spend with me, and I should be spending with my family.
Right. And you know, well, of course, you know that I used to be married before. And it was just to a point where we'd be so bombarded with so much stuff, and then especially when we have kids all the time, it seems like we have no adult time. So by the time husbands walk through the door, we like, yes, you know, I finally get the adult time, get to talk to them. But what we fail to realize is sometimes when they come home from work, they need that downtime. They need that time to, you know, get away from work, and they have to be able to separate work from home. So if they don't have that time to actually do that, then they don't know what else to do, and then that's when a lot of arguments and stuff start occurring. And right here, the scripture in Proverbs 25:24 says, "Better to live alone in a shack than to share a mansion with a nagging spouse." You know, so I mean, I don't think nobody want to come home from, come home to chaos after they feel like they have been dealing with chaos as well. So when you come in, like, do you have a routine that you do?
Sometimes kind of depend on the day. If I'm working out that day, well, we got to the point where originally it used to be me. I go to the gym, come home, and I used to do this directly after work. So when I came home, you know, my family would get the tired, rundown version of me, which was, you know, unfair to them. So I had to try to find a way to rebalance that. Go to the gym less, come home, give them some of the energy. And as far as the decompression portion you spoke about, I tried to learn to decompress on my way from work, on my way from the gym.
That's good.
So I didn't bring that energy into the house. Even though sometimes when I got home, I would shower, eat, and I ain't gonna tell y'all no story. I just pass right out. I'd be so tired, but you know, to my wife, that still was unfair to her because she needed, you know, my time. She needed that pillow talk. She needed to decompress and give me the information that she needed to give me for that day, and or anything she had on her shoulders that she's been carrying all day. And that's where communication is always important in a relationship. Not, it can't always be the man wanting to, baby, this happened, baby, that happened, baby, look at this, baby, why that? You know, your wife goes through things too. Your partner, the person you're in a relationship with, goes through things too. So you have to understand that they have to have time with you to communicate their pains and their issues that they may have in life too, because you never know how that could help them as far as, you know, finishing their day out as well.
Absolutely. And you also mentioned communication, and I know that we have talked one time before about the keys and stuff to happiness, and that was like one of the top things that you mentioned was communication. Do you can you expound a little bit about the expectations of marriage when you went into it?
Expectation versus reality. We expect, if you're with somebody for years, I tell you the truth, I don't care how long you're with anybody, you never truly know that person unless you're constantly communicating with that person. People change, other things manifest in their life, they have other ideas, they want to do other things in life. If you're just sitting around thinking you know everything about them and you're not talking to them constantly and talking to them every day, you're never going to know where they're progressing in life, how they're feeling, what they want to do. And it's all about communication. If you're not communicating, things begin to fester. The arguments start to happen. The fights start to happen. Your kids either try to work both sides and or pick a side if you have children. And that's unfair to them because one parent will always be looked at as the enemy while the other one's the angel, when it could be completely opposite. Or sometimes the kid's torn between the two, and that's always unfair to the kid. So you have to communicate and well in front of the children. If you have any harsh feelings or anything, don't let those things harbor and fester, because the longer you do, when it all comes out, it'll come out wrong, as opposed to you directly hitting it head on and going ahead and talking about it while you're feeling that way. That way it can be out there and you can go ahead and go forward with the situation as far as getting a solution to the problem.
And I like the fact that you even brought up the fighting, which was another key that we talked about, as far as the key to happiness to marriages. So with the fighting, we're also talking fighting for the marriage if we see it failing. And we also talking about fighting fairly.
Right. People tend to break their relationship and or marriage up over the most minuscule thing. I'm talking about, I don't know what an unreconcilable difference is. I don't like the way you wash dishes. I don't like the way you fold clothes. People get divorced over the silliest stuff. And I know back in our day, you couldn't stay with other people. People called it shacking. But in this day and age, people are living together and trying to figure out how that person is, what their nuances are, what they do daily. And that's how you kind of figure out if you could deal with or really live with a person eternally. But you still have to have that communication in between there, because even while you're going through your daily routine, in and out, you still have to get to know that person, to understand that person. Even if you're not living together, you still have to make that time for that significant other, to make sure that everything's on the up and up, especially if you plan on getting married and or having kids. Or sometimes you run into a situation where kids are not planned, but our plan ain't God's plan. We all know that.
Right.
So when two people get together, God designate that moment for that man and that woman to get together. Just like death, you don't know the day, the time, or the hour.
That's right.
That kid coming because God wanted here and it was in your plan. So you have to just be prepared to communicate and be fair. That's another thing. You know, it can't always be your way and what you want. You have to be able to bend as well to make that relationship work.
Right, and that's where that fighting fairly, comes into play, because at the end of the day, somebody have to listen to somebody, and if both of y'all yelling and arguing and being loud towards one another, somebody can't hear something. And then I think the things that really needs to be heard is not being heard because it's been masked over anger. Right. So the fighting fairly, I believe in, I let you talk and then after that I talk. Yeah. Or looking at, okay, what I can fix with myself, versus trying to fix you. Right. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, that also plays in a part of partnership as well. And before we get into partnership, we getting ready to take a small break. But partnership is very, very important. And most people don't know what partnership is because you always have somebody trying to dominate the other. Good. So we will talk about that once we come back. And I would like to have a quick shout out to all my Facebook friends for watching. Love you guys. Hello, everybody. We're back. We're back with special guest Jim Gooding. For the ones who just now coming in, we left off talking about partnership. You want to expound a little bit about partnership and how it plays in the marriage?
Correct. As far as that, equality is about two people finding a common ground, nobody being greater than the other. Mm-hmm. And it's weird because sometimes you run into situations now where, in the past it's always been that the man's supposed to be the breadwinner. Mm-hmm. If anybody worked multiple jobs, it's the man is the man that. But now women have come into their own where women can be the breadwinners. Women are working in multiple jobs. Women are making more money than some men, mm-hmm. which can be intimidating. Even in your own household, you never know. You never know how God's going to progress your spouse in your life, male or female. You can run into a situation where your wife gets a promotion. She's making more than you. Sometimes you can run into a situation where there could be resentment towards your wife because you're now seemingly lower on the total pole. Mm-hmm. But in the big scheme of things, you're still considered the head of the household. But your wife is bringing what she's bringing to the table, which is more of a help than harm. You just have to understand that if your wife is not projecting any dominance over you, or wanting to treat you any kind of different because she's making more than you now, mm-hmm. If anything, that should elevate your grind and have you wanting to do better as opposed to holding any resentment towards her, because that too can cause another type of issue in a relationship. That's just something you don't want to be involved.
And I'm glad that you expounded on that. And real quick, I just want to throw out there, this is not just for married couples. This is also for single people who needs to gain that mindset of what marriage really is, because people think marriage, like these days, they think marriage is all about the benefits and, oh my God, he is fine and we can do this net together and I'm just so in love with them. Marriage take work. And if you go in there already having the mindset of knowing what marriage is, it will work in your favor.
Right.
You know?
To speak on that, one thing we should never do is, like Regina mentioned previously, stop looking at people on Instagram. Stop looking at people on these reality shows. Stop looking at people thinking their life is the life you want. You don't know what these people got going on behind the scenes.
No idea.
They could hate each other. They could just be a photo op or just something being done for the press. You have to deal with your relationship your way. Absolutely. Between you and your significant other. Keep all the outside people out. If anybody knows any information about your situation or your relationship, it probably came from one of you to an outside source and is being regurgitated, and that's something you don't want. Any issues you have in your marriage that you want to work out or expunge, keep that outside sources out. And keep that conversation and that situation between you and your wife. If y'all decide to go y'all separate ways, even in your common relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend,
absolutely,
or significant other, if you guys can't work it out internally, and you go your separate ways, that's different than outside sources coming in. That's good. And breaking up y'all from the inside out.
That's good. And I'm glad that you mentioned about the outside distractions. So pretty much, you done tapped into what I was going to ask, about these outside distractions, because that's a lot of times the reason why people be breaking up, because they don't try to find out anything. They just go by hearsay, and that's not cool, because you guys have been building so long, but then you're going to let 5 minutes of fame to come and break you up, Right. I just say for myself, I refuse to let them step in and do that for me.
Right. Yeah, don't ever let... all candy ain't good candy, and all grass ain't green. Always remember that. If you feel a certain way, or you're having an eye toward, and that's what the communication thing going. I know I had some conversations I didn't want to have with my wife about some stuff I did or some situations I had prior to us getting married, and it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulder, because I always felt this pressure, like, oh man, what if something happened or something gets said or something come around? But now that I got it off my shoulder and I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do now, I have no worries. I can walk around with my head up, ain't scared, ain't looking around no corners, I don't feel no crazy about nothing. So, I'm telling y'all, it's not easy to tell your significant other if you done something wrong to them or crazy, but you have to let them feel the way they feel in that moment, about that moment, and you can't tell them when to get over it either. You might hear about it 10 years from now, but you did it, so you have to listen to it, and you have to deal with it.
So, is dating still a factor? When you met, is dating still a factor in your marriage?
If you courted them and dated them then, you have to date them when you're married as well. Dating your wife is just as important as dating her when you were boyfriend and girlfriend, or when you were just courting her. That's one thing I plan on working on more with my wife. My wife works so hard, and I work crazy hours now because my shift changed to my own job, that we have to make time for us. I always make time for you, because I did hear an insert from basketball player Stephen Curry and his wife Alicia Curry one time. They were asked what was more important, the children or your marriage. They said your marriage, because when the children leave the nest, you still have to be there with each other. You still have to see each other. If you're just there for the children, then you have nothing to look forward to once the children are gone. That's why a lot of times when the kids leave the nest, the parents fall apart, they get a divorce, they're going to do what they want to do because they weren't working on their marriage the entire time while they were parenting, and that could cause an issue going forward in a relationship as well.
And I know we had mentioned earlier about children. For the ones that do have children, when you enter into a marriage, you're entering into like two individuals becoming one. But those individuals, they didn't grow up in the same home.
Right.
So everybody was disciplined different. Right. So when it comes to discipline, how did that come into play in a marriage?
That was a discussion me and my wife had. I'm from the era of the butt whipping, like many of us probably are. If you did it, you were gonna get it. That's all I knew was going on. You never knew the time or the hour with that either. Sometimes,
nope.
My mom would just come in the room like, "All right, it's time." You'd be like, "What?" You be done forgot about it. But me and my wife came to agreement that for me, my theory became when I used to get whoopings. As I got older, my feeling of expressing my anger was to whoop the person I was mad at. That's unfair, but psychologically, that's what I felt like I should have done. But going forward, having a discussion with my wife, she barely got spanked. She was a good old girl, but she barely got any whoopings. But she said we're not gonna whoop our child. That's not our thing. We'll discipline him other ways. We'll take things away. We'll not let him go places, not hang out with friends, not play his video games, things of that nature. And it's amazing that stuff kind of hurt him more than the spanking. It's kind of weird, but you have to find another way to prevent what's now called abuse. And no one abused us back in the day. No, but it was just you getting your tail whooped. But you just have to find other means and other ways outside of being physical against your child to try to discipline them. And that's just a discussion we had. And I'm not telling anybody how to discipline their child. That's just the way we decided to do ours. Now, how he might turn out later in life will depend on what we're doing now. Just like anybody who still whoops their child, which I don't condone that because it's your child. You raise it the way you want. As long as it don't get to a point where you breaking bones or doing terrible bruises or anything like that. If that's your way, that's your way. Handle it the way you need to handle it. The child is still going to turn out good or bad either way.
And see, that's why I feel like courtship is very important. Some people like the microwave relationship. They just want to hop right into it. But the courtship is like I guess that process of getting to know that person, getting to know their ways, and if I could tolerate you, if you could tolerate me, and because that stuff has been cut out, people going directly to marriages. Do you think that's why a lot of there's a high rate of divorce now, because it's been cut out for some people?
I think a couple of things may play into that. You got the type of music that's out now. The imagery we see via social media that we didn't get back in the day, the press some people get, like I say, those songs where you think just because a man or woman got some good loving or got a lot of money or got a lot of power, they should be able to treat you any way they want or do anything to you they want. You gotta get that stuff out of your head. You have to understand the type of person you're dealing with and have a conversation with that person about what they want in a relationship, and you tell them what you want out of a relationship. If you can't come to an agreement on what both of you desire equally, and it works for you, go ahead and get out of that situation now, because it's never going to work.
Right. And the question I have for you is, because you and I, we were brought up in a single parent home. What motivated you to become that great father and that great husband?
Well, I can't say I was always a great father and a great husband. I too had some mishaps and fallings, but lucky for me, I was able to marry a wonderful woman. Shout out to my wife, Lynette. That was good.
Love you, girl.
She guided me along the way sometimes, because by my father not being there, I lived in the house, as my sister said, single parent home, but it was me, my sister, my mother, and my grandmother. I've only been around women. No man gave me no direction. I wasn't shown how to treat women. I mean, I obviously saw how I wanted to treat a woman, because I saw what my mother, sister, and grandmother and things went through, and how they were treated in some of their relationships. So I kind of learned the do's and don'ts that way, but not truly until I got into my own situations where I began to understand. And my wife had conversations with me about how she would like things to go, how she would like the baby to be treated, and what she expected out of me. That is when I began to understand and come into myself on how I should go going forward or progressing in our relationship.
Well, you guys, you heard it from a young man. He's not an older. This is a young man that's speaking on marriages. So, thank you so much, Jim, for coming out. I hope you will come back and see us again.
Sure.
And I hope you guys had, receive a lot of nuggets and stuff that he threw out there, especially the women folks, take it in, because this is going to be, your future. Going into a marriage if you're not married already, and to keep your marriage if you are married. So again, you guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in, and thank you so much for tuning to Talk Time with Ty and Tia.
And one more thing before we go, men and women, never assume anything about your significant other or who you're pursuing or who you're dating. Always try to have those conversations and find out what type of person you're dealing with and why. So sometimes you run into a situation where you just jump in the sack or whatever and go from there, but always take time to get to know the person. Don't jump up and do nothing in a couple of months, because 9 times out of 10, in the beginning, you're meeting a representative. I had to learn that as well. You meet the representative of the person, not the real person. It takes time to get to know a person, but are you willing to take that time? And that's where you just have to go with it.
Amen to that, brother. Thank you for tuning into Talk Time with Ty and Tia. Next is Building the Bible with Abram Heath. I would like to end with, Lord, open the doors that needs to be open, close the door that needs to be closed. Let the open door be so obvious that I may walk in my purpose just for the day. And we're out.